Well, let's go ahead and get started, just so make sure we have enough time to cover. I know we've got some content that my colleague's going to be sharing that we want to make sure that you hear. So started. Thanks for being here to learn a little bit more about AgWest Farm Credit. So I'm going to accomplish today, just want more about the company. Janssen talked a little bit over lunch about AgWest Farm Credit, but this is an opportunity to take a little bit deeper dive into some of the loan products that we have, and some specific programs around helping young beginning and program that we have called AgVision. So before we do that, my name is Jesika Harper, and I work actually in Spokane, Washington, and the AgVision program that we have covers our entire territory, which 7 states, and I'll be covering that momentarily, but I have a degree in business, but a love for and grew up on a peach and cherry orchard in central Washington. So, you know, I was cheap farm labor for my appreciate that because it instilled in me a love for farming. And I get to focus now today on serving young, beginning, and small farmers. And so those are just some pictures from home. Those are my kids actually when they were very little. All of this community food systems discussions that have been going on in all the different rooms, I think is just so important and great to be hearing the work that's going on in Alaska. You know, my kids certainly were raised from and could certainly grow a garden of their own if they needed to. That's a picture in a high tunnel that we actually programmed this summer using actually Oregon Valley greenhouses. It has a booth. They have a terrific product. Little difficult to put together, but it's gonna, you know, it can withstand an Alaskan winter. It's a really high quality product. Us moving some cows in Montana for some friends that are veteran farmers, ranchers, and had a bunch of mother cows they needed to gather up in the fall. So in terms of, you know, our purpose, I love that we serve only agriculture and aquatics. Really, everything that we do is community minded. We want to think about how can we make sure that the communities where we live thrive. And so we provide a lot of different support through grants, obviously through loans that are competitive and structured appropriately so that the agriculture producers in those communities are sustainable long term. So that guides us every day. We're also a cooperative, which I think is very important because the people are also farmers and ranchers. We've got a lot of procedures and they vote for the things that we do. We've got a lot of groups that provide guidance to us on how they think we should be, you know, conducting business in the communities where we work. And that leadership from our farmers and ranchers really is the backbone of what we do. To say people that are lending in all different countries where they've got corporate shareholders that are frankly interested in profits over those long-term results. And so there is, people say that they're a cooperative. That's important, a difference there. And I think also used to it, we kind of forget that. So I'm really proud to work for a lending institution. We have been lending since now. For those of you that don't know, Farm Credit was actually formed by Congress during the Depression, because at that time, for quick trip down history, you know, when the Dust Bowl was going on and all of that, bank lending to farmers was a very good bet. And so they didn't want to do it. And the government enough to know that if they didn't make sure that farmers had capital to put seed, the country was going to starve. So, and that's important also because we're going to be here with farmers through thick and thin. And that's important for those of you that are young, beginning, and small farmers, especially. It provides some assurances that we understand the cycles of agriculture. Other than storm, we're not going to get in and out of this industry when. And so that's, I think, part of our ethos. That's an important consideration when you make a decision on where you would go to look for capital to help your farm or ranch. So I mentioned 7 states. We cover all of Alaska, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, 9 counties in California. There's a couple other farm credits that are in California, as well as and a little part there in Nevada. Part of what we do, how many people recall that our new producer grant? Is that, see a couple folks heard about it? We and I'm going to talk about it in just a minute, but education was really a very important part of the new producer grant. The application process was designed in such a way to make sure that every applicant they won a grant or not, understood through the application process how to a cash flow budget, which we know is a very important part of running a business effectively as a farm manager, and writing out a business plan and really thinking through the nuts and bolts of business, not just to be a farmer and produce your product, but also how you're going to get it out the door and have a market. So education is a very important part of what we do in our business management center. We call it the BMC. All they do is provide education for farmers and ranchers. It's on our website. We give classes, on-demand things, and it's package this in a way that's quick and easy for people to get when they're on the farm, because frankly, a lot of time to bounce all around to conferences like this. So we package it up, and we've got people that listen to this stuff on the tractor and different things too, if that suits them. I mentioned about how communities where we work and live, because we work there too. We want these to be strong communities. So we actually, we've got to us that's paid, that we get to, at our leisure, go help farmers, nonprofit. Somebody that Rich Hendershot that I work with, he's doing some kids in the class. We've got a lot of support that we give through our rural community grant program, food banks, lots of different organizations. Military and veteran supports a little bit about that at lunchtime, but there's a lot of the discipline and work ethic that we see from our farmer veterans, because there's a lot of alignment there. So the Farmer Veteran Coalition, that's actually how we learned about this event and started coming, was because of Mike Williams. Him and Paula are peony farmers that are also veterans, and the importance of coming to this conference. So the program that I get to work on is called AgVision, to serve young, beginning, and small farmers. It's a great opportunity because there's so many, as you've all learned, resources to support young, beginning. Those farmers only need to be one of those three categories. So young is 35 years old or less, 10 years of independent farm management experience or less, and small is gross farm earnings of less than $350,000 a year. That's going to meet the criteria of most farmers in Alaska. What's neat about AgVision is that we have flexible guidelines, fee waivers, very low interest rates. We've got established staff that all they do is focus on programs to work with our AgVision programs, such as other state programs, things like that. They know about the grants through things like that, grant, LMPP, other things. That our job as a trusted advisor to new farmers is to not own, but to provide resources and information to help them be made aware of other things in business as well. So about the kind of along with the AgVision program, we've got additionally education and technology reimbursement benefits. We want to make sure that our producers have a good computer. They might need a drone. I got a tickle in my throat. And we have a rate-wise program for education. These are the types of ag-based financing that we provide. So we have short-term loans in the form of operating lines. I was afraid this was going to happen, guys. No, it's okay. We've an operating line is a 1-year loan that you run all your expenses through. You run a cash flow budget. You decide how much money you're going to need for the year. You have a loan you pay off at the end of the year. We also offer IT loans. That's the intermediate term loan for equipment, livestock, things like that. Real estate loans, and then country home loans. We've got a rate-wise program. Serve that with your phone. I've got this team, and that you can sign up to get educational credits for future interest. And then we have our grant. It's a $15,000 grant for 30 people that are new producers, people that have just started farming within 2 years. We had a lot of Alaskan producers. It was a great experience. We're going to do it again in the first quarter. It's on our social media. So what happens when you talk to too many people and you shake too many hands.
So you said those are people, is that just in Alaska or is that across your entire?
Yeah. The stories that came out of the program were phenomenal. And these are people that are not. So this is probably a highlight for never done this before. And it just really gives you a lot of hope for the future of farming.
You got some more of these?
Yeah, oh yeah, we had, yeah, for sure. They're here. So that was really exciting. Sorry about the. We do a better booth, but we make so.
Let's get qualifications, the 3 year qualifications. Those are either or.
Yes,
Right?
yeah, you only have to meet one.
Okay, yes, so practically every.
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Lori Janssen, and obviously I'm with AgWest here. I'm here about our consumer loan programs, which is our country home loan product, is what we call it. On my agenda today, I'm going to talk about the loan programs that we offer. We're also some things that make us unique in the market. I am also going to talk at a very high level, like eligibility and then I've got some property examples I wanted to share with you guys. So before I get into the agenda, I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about me. I live in Washington State. I was born and raised in Oregon, went to school, got a bachelor's of science at University of Oregon. To help pay for college, I worked on the salmon in the middle of the Bering Sea. So that taught me a lot about myself. I have about 25 years worth of real estate experience. 16 of those years have been with Farm Credit. So several roles. I've been a financial specialist, an operations manager, credit officer, and now a relationship manager originating loans. Got 3 programs I'm going to talk about. One is our home loan program, and then we've got our construction loan and our land loan that we do. And before I go into all the features, they all three have these 3 things in common. So we all have adjustable rates or fixed rates to choose from. None of our loans on the consumer side have prepayment penalties, so you can. And then we have no acreage restriction. So I like to explain to people as a 1/4 of an acre, all the way up to 150, 200 acres. So the first one is we just call it our country home loan. So this is going to be a purchase of a home or a refinance of a home. Yeah, let's see. I have a max loan amount that I can do. That's $3 million. When we're payment, we are looking, if the loan is under $1 million for a 20% down payment. So that's a loan to value of 80%. If the loan's over $1 million, we're going to ask for 25% down. So that's a loan to value of 75%. And then we also can do a lot of unique properties. So like off-grid properties, log homes, properties with remote access, shop homes. But we will to 30%, so a loan to value of 70%. And let's see here. And then our all-in-one construction loan, we call it all-in-one for a good reason. If you ever have got, a lot of times a bank will do a construction loan for 12 months, 18 months, maybe 24 months if you're lucky. And then at the end of that time frame, get permanent financing somewhere else. We do one set of fees, one set of closing. And what we'll do is we'll treat that first 12 months of your closing as your construction period. So your payments are based on what you're taking out each month. So each month is going to be slightly different, and they're going to. Now the key though is that at the end of the 12 months, your full payment. So even if you're not done with construction, you do have to start making that full payment. But you do have to start making your full payment so you can pay your loan off in time. Oh, and by the way, if you have questions, you can interrupt me at any time. So it depends, and I'll get into that too. But So it'll depend on if the person is a full-time farmer or what we refer to as a rural resident. And so then our loan to down payment, if you want to look at it that way, is the same on a construction loan as it's either that 80%, 70, or 70. One thing that we do, I don't know if I too much detail on this, but I will tell you that right now we require contingency on all of our construction loans. That means, say your bid is $100,000, we're going to want you to bring 10,000 into closing. So far, I've been able to up the loan 10% to cover that, so they don't have to come in with cash. They the property. That's just a little side note prior to that. And then I didn't say it on our home loan, both our home loans and our construction loans, we do require people have mortgage payments, which is that PITI, which is taxes and insurance. And then my favorite I saved for last, which is I do probably 80% of my portfolio is bare land loans. So some of the features here is we have no time limit for builders who will do land loans within a year. That to where you may be on a variable rate where it changes every 6 months. Sign a document saying you're gonna build right away. Again, no prepayment fee. We also don't require any improvements. And so what I mean by that is we don't water, sewer, septic, or so it can be completely raw land. Feasibility is not required. However, build a home on your property, I highly that'll tell you if you can even build a house there, or you can build your house. So it's important to do that. And then in some cases, I can do recreational properties. So that's going to be for the part-time farmers that I can do recreational properties. So, and I'll kind of talk about that farther down. For land loans, we do have a max loan amount of $750. For our land loans, we require 20% down if the loan is $1,000 or less. If it's over that, it's for 30% down. Or if it's in a remote area, access only. And then the slides that require 4 months on land loans. And then, so I have quite a bit on, I got 2 slides for this, but one is a lender, and that's something I'm really proud of because we don't sell the loans on a second. So that means if I work with you, you can call me after your loan processor. We have a customer care unit. We've got a central servicing department. There's just a lot of people to help support if you have questions after your loan closes. We pride ourselves on having a trusted advisor relationship. So we try not to think of it as a transactional. And then then obviously we're committed to rural development. And then Jesika talked about the fact that we're a co-op, so the farm credit membership that you belong to. Again, no acreage restrictions. The other thing that makes us unique is we are okay with income producing properties. So for example, I had somebody call me about property with 5 acres and a house with peonies farm on it over in Wasilla, and they were having a hard time getting financing. So we don't mind. We encourage that. We do a lot of shop homes. We do manufactured homes as long as they're double wide or larger and built after June of '76. We're also really good at and used to doing properties with like large horse facilities and large outbuildings. We have financing options for dry cabins, which is popular up here. And then we do the off-grid properties. We have an internal appraiser that can do a last we have on our books. So in areas where we have a hard time finding appraisers. So for eligibility up into 3 categories here. So we've got our rural resident, part-time farmer and full-time farmer. And it's important for us to decipher between what somebody is going to be, because that will depend on if I can do the primary or an investment or a secondary home. So for the rural resident, it's pretty somebody who does not plan to make any farm income. They may have their own garden. They're not planning on farming. So the money that we get is for the purchase of a primary residency, or they can have a construction loan for a primary residency or a primary residency that they tend to do that. I am also limited on my loan amount I can do. In Alaska, it's a moderately priced dwelling is considered 449,000. So that means I can't do a loan if the appraises at I can't do it if they're a rural resident. I'd have to send them to somewhere else. So it's nice to try to find a way to get people in the hobby farming category. So not limited to this. So our part-time farmers, I kind of refer to them as hobby farmers too. Sometimes they're also people who want to become full-time farmers. So a lot of times I'll put them in the AgVision program that Jesika has. So just intend to have a gross income of $500 a year. So it's not a whole lot. So I see a lot of people. There's a guy in Willow who is doing honeybees. So there's a lot of opportunities to come up with $500. And the purpose of the funds that I get them a primary residency, secondary home, and then again, a construction for primary. For land, I can do the recreational program for them. And I can do a future home site for them. For our full-time farmer, that's their main income is farm. And for full-time farmer, the primary home, the secondary home, and the investment property. Something different. I can do an investment property for them. And what else? Let's see if there's anything.
Is that for the, or like if the spouse works somewhere?
I think we leave it as a full-time farmer. We're gonna just treat him as a full-time farmer. System is set up. Yeah, we just treat him like a full-time farmer. Yep. They would build a system like that. So yeah, I can, same for the full-time farmer. So.
Oh, I'm saying there's very few full-time farmers.
But we can do a lot for the hobby farmer and, the part-time farmer who, so credit qualification. Oh, yeah, go. Yeah.
For the loans that you've awarded to Alaskan residents, is that mostly part-time farm loans then?
For me, it's been, for what I do, it's been mostly part-time farmers. I'm sure Jesika has got, and Whitney have had the full-time farmers.
Yeah, but even, a lot of those part-time farmers, they're on their way to becoming a full-time farmer, or sometimes
Yep.
people just like the risk mitigation factor of off-farm income, and we're supportive of that too, because we know how important it is to have a town job sometimes to make a go of things. So from my perspective, for AgVision, it doesn't, that full-time, part-time isn't as big of a differentiator.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say,
Okay.
like, some people quote for part-time farmers, they have another full-time job, but in reality, they pretty much are doing two full.
They might want health
Two
insurance or
full-time.
something.
Right, yeah, we would definitely. Because I think I had another guy who. Same situation. He technically is a full-time farmer, but he has a side. Because he has to.
He has,
Yeah, and we understand that. So from a credit qualification standpoint, we want to see a credit score of 700 or higher. I will say some people just don't have a credit score because they've never had debt. Now, we can usually look at, do you have a cell phone bill? Do you have, something like that I can verify that you've paid on time. We're gonna go to a 36% max total. And what that means is if you are a earner, we're gonna go ahead and take your gross income, your monthly growth, and divide in all your monthly debts. So that's any other mortgages, a new proposed mortgage, and such as a student loan or a car payment. And if you don't pay monthly, we'll add that in as well. Now, if you are self-employed, such as being a farmer, off your net income. But the other thing with full-time farmers is I can run their through our commercial side, because they can go to a little bit higher income. Sometimes I can get that support. Even if you're not one of their customers, I just a guy who, he looked good, but just the way he had things off for the farm, it just didn't look right in my system, but by the ag side. Unless we require a minimum of 20% down mortgage payments. And then I do have a minimum loan amount of 50,000, but I can go a little bit lower in Alaska on land if I can get exceptions, because sometimes land's not as expensive, so. And then, where are we? I think I'm missing a slide, but that's okay. So here's just some property examples. Yeah, I missed, some of my slides are not in there.
The formatting.
Yeah. So I brought these up because these are ones we did for recreational properties. So we've got a yurt, we've got two tiny homes and then a dry cabin there. And then this was a construction loan we did in Delta Junction. So that had a remote, it was a remote property or remote access, sorry. This was an off-grid property that we've done. So solar there. And then I just closed this in Palmer. So we did the 40-acre tract there. And then a 10-acre in Willow. And then this just did this 119 acres in Willow that had two of these little dry cabins on them. Yeah, and yeah, a few of the slides are missing, but yeah.
Where's the off-grid?
That one it's in Washington. Yeah, I forget which one it was now, but yeah. That one there, yeah. Oregon. I think it's Katie's property. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, we can definitely do off-grid. We just want to make sure that it still has septic. We won't do like the other options. So, yeah. I don't know, do you guys have any questions? Slides didn't make it through, but I know I'm missing a couple slides.
Okay, but you covered.
Yeah. I think I was covered. What's that? On the home loans, we're in the 7%, and on land loans, we are about 8.85. Yeah. And we can do a 20-year term on land. So. That's what I'm missing. Sorry, guys. Let's see something real quick.
Interest rate. It's a tricky place to be in with our farmers right now because they feel like if they don't make the purchase now and interest rates go down, the market value of the property is going to go up. And it's very hard to afford land because the rates are so high. And it's just, this is a really challenging. But the one thing that I do know, we do as much as we can on the interest rates. I mean, like with the AgVision program, when we became AgWest Farm Credit a year ago, when our two companies merged, we changed in our pricing. We had incentives for young beginning small farmers before. But I told Sonia, who I work for, I said, if nothing else gets done while I've been doing this, we reduce the interest rates as low as we can go, where the margin is such that, you know, it's covering our payroll, and that's about it. So it's not like which is uncommon because most lenders write to risk. New farmer is a little bit of a risk, right? They start farming, they don't want to farm anymore, and that's fine. That's it, because they try it as hard. Or sometimes it just doesn't work out, but a lot of times it does. And we think it's a good. So as crummy as rates are, we do try to partner with the Farm Service Agency because their rates are federally subsidized. Deals with them, that rate is even lower. And we can help with down payment. Doesn't have the same credit requirements. I want to clarify.
Those are consumer only.
So ag is a little bit different. But
Okay, you guys are, yeah. Well, and that's how I can get time farmers, like I said, if the taxes don't look, I mean, but when I'm doing my typical analysis, I can go send it to the and look at it, which I just closed the loan like that.
We have a big upstairs.
Model. In that,
Yes,
and it is reduced. Right?
well, it's 1.25%, and we don't call it an interest rate reduction because it's paid. First quarter, so we can't really compare it, but effectively, if you looked at it that way, yeah, it reduces your interest rate even further. Just for
That was
clarification.
both sides?
No.
Yeah.
Just for
Ag side, yep. Mhm.
Interesting component.
yeah.
But a lot of times the people I work with on the ag side, like they start with me, they buy, the home, they getting their land and they'll end up switching over to being a full customer. So I can get them I can put them in the program. So they'll still get some of the benefits of the AgVision program. The tuition reimbursement and, yeah. So I do that. Make sure people get into that program and
It's
get
a
with
good
somebody.
pipeline program.
Yeah.
New farmers.
Exactly.
I would just add, I think we're highlighting the AgVision program and our home loan program, but I mean, two elements of what we can really do across the board.
Now, did you say? Previous not doing, but like with crop insurance, because this state does not have proper insurance unless you go through the USDA.
We're the same.
Yeah,
Insurance is
it's a-
federal program.
So,
I guess it depends, so.
So we don't.
In the state.
well, like for me, French Financial will not cover a specialty crop insurance for strawberries or berries. They don't do that,
I just was chatting with
unless you
Ben.
go and do a USDA.
Yeah, I was just chatting with Ben from Army. I mean, it would depend. There are some policies that may provide coverage. It really would depend on. If you have a specialty crop with whole barn, you get a covered product for you. So I think that there are some options. And we can certainly chat about that if you were interested in. The whole farm, I mean, there are a lot of crops that are not covered. The state of Alaska, so we're just recognizing that, but there are some products allow, as the name of one, that
There's another product that's been shared last year that fits like peanut butter.
whole farming, yeah, it is one of them.
And yeah, so there's options.
I think we were
I
just
couldn't
talking.
farm here without problems. I've had health insurance in here. I was, perfectly honest with you, I get a plenty home every year. But I'm sure price disaster and it's worked out most years for me. But I stated that, I don't get it like every year, but it's more years than not. Because it'll either be price or it'll be a disaster, one or the other, or a certain crop, I'm sure different crops. Couldn't farm without it, or wouldn't want it.
Yeah, good one. Next slide. But if you guys have any more questions, just let me know. Or Jessica.
Everybody's situation is really unique.
Yeah.
So sometimes the best thing to do is if you have a question, just to call
Mhm.
and have somebody that knows about like your scenario with your strawberries. I remember your strawberry farmer was doing that last year.
Correct. You know,
Well, because everybody's real.
it doesn't say like a document, I can't remember. When that, looking at a property, but there's no loans for infrastructure, like all right, I gotta get the power line to this property. And so it becomes a headache. It's like, all right, well, either you go and just go off grid, and then you have to build however many years to finally put in a power line. It would be, I don't know, it would be interesting if that, even like grant wise.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.